This accounting mini lecture covers direct versus indirect cost. When we are classifying manufacturing cost, we have to determine whether they are direct cost or indirect cost. Direct costs are those that are easily and feasibly traceable to a single cost object. Typically, a single cost object is either going to be a specific job or a specific product or product line. Examples are typically going to be direct materials and direct labor. Generally, if the direct material is a substantial component of the finished product, then we can trace it to a specific job or product. The same will be true for labor. If it's a substantial labor cost, for example, the production employees, working on an assembly line or a production line, those can easily be traced to a specific product or product line. Indirect manufacturing costs are those that cannot be easily traced to a single product line or perhaps a single job if we're using a job order costing system. These indirect costs will ultimately become part of our manufacturing overhead cost, and they will be allocated to jobs and or products. Some examples of indirect costs, things that fall into manufacturing overhead, are costs such as the lease or rent on the facility, utilities, depreciation cost, the cost associated with the salaries for managers, supervisors, maintenance personnel, because these are generally costs that benefit the facility as a whole, and it may not be feasible to trace those to an individual product. Other examples are going to be indirect materials and indirect labor. Those will be discussed in other mini lecture videos, but just to give you an overview, indirect materials are materials that are used in making a product, but it's not economically feasible to trace those to the final product. Typically, it's going to be because the cost is so small that it just doesn't make sense to trace that cost back to the product. Some common examples might be, depending on the product we're making, maybe nails, screws, wood glue, things like that, where the cost would probably be pennies or less per unit, and it may just not really make sense to trace that back to a specific product or a specific unit. It might make more sense just to lump that into manufacturing overhead and then allocate it accordingly. So thank you for watching this video covering direct and indirect cost.